Guys, how's everybody doing?
Good. How about you?
I am hanging in there, one day at a time.
Look, if you don't mind, start
Yeah.
with that. Like, how has this adjustment been for a couple of days? What's been different about it than maybe you anticipated?
Yeah, it's been one of those 2 days, seems like 2 weeks a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. Just a lot going on. I mean, obviously, when you have a change in position, right, there's things that you got to change in your daily schedule. Listen, coaches are routine guys now. I'm guilty as charged in being a routine guy. And so my personal routines had to change up. And so you're just trying to figure out the best way to do things. I thought it was really important to try to communicate with just about everybody in the building, most importantly the players, and then obviously the coaches and the staff, and just making sure everybody's on the same page. We made some changes on the daily schedule. We made some changes on the practice schedule. And so, you just got to make sure that, we've been doing things around here the same way, or at least similar, for a long time. And I thought it was important to maybe just get a little change of pace. And so we have a lot of people in the building that have been here for a while and have been doing that. And so just been doing a lot of that, a lot of schedule stuff, obviously dealing with our personnel. And then at the end of the day, we got a game plan. And so just trying to make sure that we have enough time for all that. So, but listen, I'm like I said the other day, certainly up for the challenge, and we'll be there Sunday.
Did you make any changes on the coaching staff? Why was it changing up the locker room layout important?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been involved in both. I just felt like, we had guys spread out all over the place. And here I am trying to preach, bonding together, circling the wagons. And here, we got guys kind of spread out. So I just thought it was a good little change of pace to break it up by position. Very, very well received. There's some guys who've been in their locker for quite a long time, so that got a little uncomfortable. But listen, we got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and so that's where we're at. We're in an uncomfortable position, and so I thought it was really good. Like I said, really well received. The guys really loved it, being kind of with their position groups. The O-line comes out of a meeting, and then they can go into the locker room, and they're all there together. They're not spread out all over the place, and they can communicate and talk about what they just installed. And that's just an example. It's just one example of many. And so just thought it was a good change of pace.
You mentioned some things that you were looking at changing evaluating. Were there any changes that you made with the coaching staff?
Yeah, I made just a couple of moving parts. I think I mentioned we hired Marwan Malouf as a special teams assistant coach. Marwan and I have a long history. He knows our system. He was my assistant in Miami for 6 years. He's been a special teams coordinator in the NFL for 2 different teams. He's been a special teams coordinator at a couple Power 5 schools. So great amount of experience. Just happened to be one of those years, ironically enough, where I was able to get him. And so that was a great addition. And then defensively, obviously with Dennis being the play caller, we kind of had to change guys around there a little bit. And so moved guys around there just a little bit, shook up the defensive staff. Just what I thought would be a good deal. Joe's obviously calling the defense. Todd Grantham is a guy that has had a lot of experience. So I took Todd out of the defensive line room, and he's going to kind of be an advisor, a senior assistant to Joe. Brian Young's going to run the defensive line room. And so just kind of, nothing crazy, nothing dramatic, but I felt like, that would be, Todd would be a good sounding board for Joe, the 2 guys that have the most experience on the defensive side of the ball. And obviously BY's been around here and knows our defensive line room very, very well. And so that was an easy transition for him. He's been in that room for a long, long time. And so, Mike Hodges and BY are going to kind of put the defensive run game plan together. Joe and M-Rob are going to kind of do the defensive game plan, or passing game, together. So, offensively we stayed status quo, but just a little bit of wrinkle on special teams and defense.
Am I right?
Go ahead.
Were there any even small changes that maybe were more symbolic, just to, it looked to me like the practice was opposite ends, opposite.
We were.
Yeah.
We were on opposite ends. The offense usually was on the far end, and the defense was on the weight room side. So we flipped ends. So just a little cosmetic change that, again, want things to feel a little bit different. I think the offense has been on the far end since Bobby Hebert was playing quarterback here. So we just switched it up a little bit. And I tricked some guys today. I had no idea it was coming. And all of a sudden we had the individual group set up, so I was joking around with that. But again, just I guess, just a different feel, different vibe. Here we are in the second half of the year. We had a little major change at the top, and just want to feel a little different for everybody, and want to keep everybody kind of on their toes and antenna up, and that was the thought process behind it. And with a lot of the things we're doing,
Just for personal note, what's it kind of like to just be a wife and kids, and just how excited are you about this opportunity for you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's my entire family, my wife, my kids, my mom, everybody knows that, I aspire to be a head coach in the NFL. I don't think anybody quite thought this was going to be the path. And so it's been a whirlwind. I have 5 children. I parent them, my wife raised them, like most coaches. And, because coaches aren't home very often. And so I have 5 kids spread out all over the country. I have 2 that play college football. You may not know that. I have 1 that plays as a walk-on long snapper at the University of Texas. I have 1 that's a linebacker at the University of Miami. My daughter is the director of recruiting at the University of Miami. Most people don't know that, so I got 2 at the University of Miami. I have 1 daughter just graduated Penn State. She's coaching high school basketball in Florida at St. Thomas Aquinas. I have a son, Cameron, who's a senior in high school. So we're spread out a little bit, and so it was touching to see the messages come in. And again, it was an emotional day on Monday, because here I am, a guy loses his job, and I'm not here to celebrate. And so it's just a little bit different. But at the same time, there is that personal side to it. There's that human element. And so we had a good little family chat and all that stuff and all that good stuff. So, and so, and like I said, my mom's still back in New Jersey, and, most of my family are back there, and just family, friends reaching out. I'll be honest with you, I didn't get a chance to read a lot of the text messages and emails, stuff were coming in until either late Monday night or early Tuesday morning. I still haven't responded to some, so if I haven't responded to you yet, I apologize. But I will, but just all that's been going on. But yeah, I mean, listen, there's definitely, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, there's a human element to it, and like I said, like I'm saying all along, I'm ready for the challenge, and I'm happy and proud to lead this organization.
Along those lines, how did it feel to run your first practice today? How do you think the players responded to it?
Really positive feedback so far. Obviously, we just ended, but I thought, I talked to a lot of guys during the practice about, just the changes in the daily schedule, the changes in the practice schedule. It felt great to be out there, to be honest with you. I feel like we got, little energy out there today, a little juice, whatever you want to call it. I didn't feel like anybody was out there, just going through the motions. I felt like there was a great energy to it. The players could probably speak on that, but the tempo was great. Thought we got a lot of great work. And so I thought there was all the things so far have been very, very well received, but the players could probably tell you more than me.
Just to clarify
Yeah.
for Brian Young, is his title defensive line coach now, or is he still?
We didn't officially change title. He's going to run the defensive line room, and so as I said, it's not. He's going to be running the defensive line room. We didn't make an official title change there. No.
Just kind of going back on that.
Yeah.
Small changes.
Yeah.
I mean, normally when we walk out there, we see guys stretching first things first. Did we just come out at like a different time of practice?
Yeah, we changed how we're doing the activation part of practice, or the stretch part of practice. So we had done it differently. Every single player went through an activation period before you guys got there today. So when you guys, I think when the press arrived, everybody had already gone through an activation session with our sports science and our strength staff. Listen, it's no secret we've had some soft tissue injuries. That's not a news flash. So we're trying to look at everything, and like I said the other day, we're evaluating and reevaluating every single aspect. That's something that's concerning, quite frankly, to me, and so I thought it was important. I've been through that before in the last job. The last organization I was with, we had some soft tissue stuff, and we got into this activation period. Talked to the players this morning about hydration, activation. We want to try to, cross every T and dot every I and make sure that we can take care of the things we can take care of. And so just a different way of doing it, again, very well received. So that stretch period that you guys usually, were there for the beginning of, that's no longer on the practice schedule.
For the layman,
Yeah.
can you just explain what an activation period is?
Yeah. So, imagine you're going to work out, and you shouldn't just go to the weight room and start lifting weights, right? Or you're going to go and you're going to go jogging you said for the layperson. I don't do a lot of jogging, unfortunately, but I need to. But you shouldn't just go out there and just start lifting weights or just go pick up a basketball and just start playing basketball. That's how you tear your Achilles, or that's how you get hurt, right? So the activation is more of a sports science thing. We take those guys through an activation period so that when practice starts, they're actually already, sweating, and they're already, have already gone through and warm. Activation is a fancy name for a warm-up. When I was growing up, we were in warm-up. Now it's activation, but they go through an activation period and let the sports science guys and the strength staff kind of decide what's the best way to get those guys activated. But, it used to be something that was kind of voluntary, and then we did our stretch period. We made it a mandatory thing here just to try to change it up a little bit.
Just to clarify, but for the coaching changes, you're not considering any of those either promotions or demotions, it's just a shuffling around?
Exactly, shuffle the deck there a little bit on defense, because, again, you have to understand with the workload changed because we took Dennis out of, Dennis got removed. Dennis was daily in the defensive staff room, so we quote-unquote lost the defensive coach, not only a head coach, we lost the play caller. And so now Joe, who was doing his stuff, he's now the coordinating it, so his workload changes. So, the day-to-day workload that maybe the fans maybe not understand completely, we just had to kind of redivvy it up, and so I just felt like that was the best way to reshuffle the deck there.
Are you finding that you're going to have to take yourself more out of the special teams based on the new responsibilities, or have you figured out what your role is?
Yeah, and listen, that's why I brought Marwan in. We call him Moof. Moof's a great ally and a great asset because he knows the system, and he's going to do a lot of the legwork and a lot of the the watching of the film, the breakdown stuff that I was doing. And so I'm still very, very heavily involved with the special teams. I'm still going to call the special teams, but having Phil and Moof here are great because, again, I'm going to have to do the leadership. And as somebody asked me the other day, the most important thing that I think in the new thing, and it's leadership. And so I can't be involved in every single thing. If I'm going to lead the building, I got to remove myself from some of that stuff. So that was the thought process of bringing in Moof.
Would you expect your personality on game day, like in making fourth down decisions and those kind of things, to be aggressive? You called yourself aggressive in the first press conference. How do you think your personality is going to play out on game day with game time decisions?
Yeah, I think there's a fine line between aggressive and, I don't want to say dumb, but you understand where I'm coming from. There's a fine line between making, being aggressive decisions and making poor decisions, or So listen, I have an aggressive mentality. I'm obviously a passionate personality. At the same time, we're gonna play the game out the way. Now, that doesn't mean I can't be aggressive once in a while. But again, I think, like I said, there's a fine line. It's just like the analytics, right? You can't judge everything based on analytics. You got to play the game the way or make decisions based on the way the game's being played. A lot of that analytics we were talking about the other day, like the 2-point conversions, for example. Well, the analytics on 2-point conversions are based off a rate of about 45%. Well, right now the NFL rate on 2-point conversions is about 31%. So you can take a little bit of the analytics, so all those decisions, the fourth down decisions. Well, how's the game being played? Is it a high-scoring game? Is it a low-scoring game? What's your opponent? If you pin their offense back, all those factors, are determined by, you're going to try a long field goal or you're going to try to pin them back. And so, like I said, so a lot of those decisions be made based on who we're playing, based on how we are playing in that particular game, our opponent, and all that. So, yeah, I have an aggressive mentality. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, I'm going to do what's right for the team.
The stretching activation period stuff, I think Dennis had mentioned something like that might be implemented this week. That was something you brought in, or something that was already in the works?
Yes, it was something that I brought up a few times, just about something that maybe we could, get to. And so we did have some conversations about that. And so I just kind of, like I said, doing it like I've done it before.
When you took a decision to trade Marshall, and how does that affect you at a position that's had a lot of injuries of late?
Yeah, listen, I think Mickey kind of covered that already in terms of the decision. I saw all of Mickey's quotes, and to be honest with you, I kind of echo all the same things. I think that there was a good value there. I don't think that Marshawn was just going to be, given away for anything. I could tell you that I know there was a lot of calls, not just the team that we traded him to. There was a lot of people that were, had interest, and so. I just felt like, that's Mickey's call, and obviously he felt like that was the right decision, and and certainly I stand by it. I saw all the things he said, not to echo every single thing, but it was good value for the player, and we move on. It is what it is. Yeah.
Is it able to affect the cornerback position?
Well, I mean, certainly we took a really good player out of the building. That's a position that we haven't been healthy at, so getting some of those guys back is going to be really important, no doubt.
Chris, do you let us know kind of where things stand with Chris Olave after last week? Is
Sure.
Potential candidate for a reserve after?
Yeah, and listen, it's going to sound a little bit like coach speak, but it's really not. This is really what he's doing. We're kind of taking this day by day. He wants to go thoroughly through the process and making sure he's making the best decision for Chris Olave. We're going to have to remove football from that equation in the beginning of it, and what's the best decision for the person. And so, listen, my conversations with him and our medical staff have been, we're going to kind of be thorough. He's going to be kind of thorough, and his family's going to be thorough with the process. I completely support that. Like I said, I have five kids of my own, and so if that was one of my kids, I would want to do the same thing. We're more worried about Chris Olave, the person, at the moment, and making sure that everything's good. And then once he goes through that process, then we'll bring it back to football and see how that fits in. So that's when I say it's a day-to-day. It's not, like I said, I know it sounds like coach speak. It's really not. It's how we're doing. So he's kind of seeing some specialists and doing some things and kind of going through the process, and I certainly encourage that.
You have to, I know you talked about practices being different and maybe policies being different, but from like how you address the team and the messaging, I mean, given the fact that you just fired a coach and you just traded a star player, that signals that maybe the future is to come and may not be right now. Does that have to change your messaging to the team to make sure that things don't go?
Yeah, listen, I understand the question. I think the two things are I know that it may look like from the outside that those two things are a parlay and are coupled together. I think they were two individual decisions. I'm not so sure if Dennis was still here, if we wouldn't have traded Marshawn or vice versa. So they're really two separate events. Do I think in any way, shape, or form that we're giving up on this season? I don't. I don't think the locker room thinks that we're giving up on the season. The front office doesn't think we're giving up on the season. And all things right now this week are pointed to go and beat the Atlanta Falcons. And so, but I understand the narrative. I can understand how that narrative could be out there, but I could promise you that's really not the feeling in the locker room, the feeling from the coaching staff. So I don't feel like that at all.
Sorry, he's going to ask the same thing now.
Yeah, to clarify, Olave, just no decision yet on the IR part of it?
Yeah, no, we're just kind of taking that on a day-to-day basis. So.
And then, with Derek, having him, is there a benefit to, as you're evaluating younger players on the roster, to have that sort of veteran quarterback rather than just evaluating does it make it easier to evaluate the younger players on the roster with a veteran quarterback?
Yeah, I'm talking about the receivers and I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Listen, good quarterback plays good quarterback play. So, I mean, young, old, bottom line is it's easier to evaluate everybody with good play. And so, I understand the question, but I would agree. Listen, the best thing I think that a veteran quarterback can do is, because of Derek's experience, that alone can help those younger guys. The evaluation part of it. I mentioned that 111 thing the other day. Well, if we're not protecting the right way, or we miss a blitz pickup, or we run the wrong route, or it's not always the quarterback. And I think the quarterback sometimes gets too much of the blame, too much of the credit, and we've had some issues and some other things, and we got to get cleaned up. And so, but yeah, I think having a veteran quarterback could certainly help a young, inexperienced receiver group out, no doubt.
I think I remember, yes, you referenced being in this situation where you had to be by hand.
Yeah.
I think I remember reading Dan Campbell was doing Oklahoma drills when he took over as the interim coach. And did you reach out to him? He's got his own team to worry about, but to talk about, or even text about what he did and how he did it, or is it just kind of what you saw him do when he took over an interim situation?
Yeah, a few things there. Number one, is anybody surprised that Dan Campbell did Oklahoma drills? Okay. Number two, I did speak with him. I had a nice long conversation with him. Dan's a close friend. Dan's quite frankly, maybe, if not the biggest reason I'm here, certainly one of them, meaning with the Saints. And we had a great conversation. And listen, he said to me, one of the first things he said to me the other morning was, Riz, when we did this, we did it together. Remember, we did A, B, and C, and we did X, Y, and Z. And I thought those were great things we did. Now, back to the Oklahoma drills, Dan took over much earlier in the season with a healthier team. And then the last thing I would say is I don't want to line up against Dan Campbell in an Oklahoma drill either. So he's not a guy. I don't want to see him in pads. So, but no, we had a great conversation. I've talked with, I said I went through the interim process with Dan. I went through it with Todd Bowles. I had a conversation with both those guys. I had a nice conversation with Coach Parcells the other day. I had a conversation with Chris Tabor, who took over the Carolina Panthers last year as the interim head coach. He's also a special teams coach, so I thought he could have provide some benefit to me and so yeah, I've kind of taken some guys and that have been through this before and taken some advice from them because listen, it obviously like anything else in life, hearing it from someone that's experienced it is going to help you no matter what you do. And so, but yeah, Dan, we definitely did Oklahoma drills. I was there, I saw it live and in living color. Yeah, so that was great. But Dan, all those guys, including Dan, had some great advice, and certainly I took it in.
Coach, when it comes to the trade of Marshall Lattimore, of course, there's ripple effects that come with a move like that. What can you say about how that impacts the potential role of Alontae Taylor, who can play on the outside but has primarily been a slot cornerback?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing I would say is Marshawn wasn't playing, and obviously he's missed a lot of time this year and last year, and so we've had to shuffle that deck before. I think it would be probably a bigger issue if we pulled him as a healthy player off the roster. We were having to deal with that already, so it wasn't a pressing issue, if you will. And now back to Alontae. I think Alontae has played his best football, so far since he's been here this year, whether it's inside, outside. I had a great conversation with Alontae today. We need him to continue to play at a high level. Having a guy that is a flexible guy like that, and he can do a lot of different things. And so, like I said, that position, though, the defensive back position is a position that we've been a little bit banged up at. So getting guys back, some of those guys back is going to be a big deal, and that can help kind of remedy some of that losing Marshawn.
And do you feel that Kool-Aid McKinstry's moving in the right path when it comes to his hamstring?
Yeah, I hope so. I had a really good conversation with Kool-Aid today. We getting him back out there will be a big deal. Obviously, he didn't practice today. You guys will be seeing the practice report here shortly, but he didn't practice today. But getting him back sooner than later is going to be a big deal for us.
Yeah, you talked about the human element with Chris Olave. Is there a question about his future as a football player? Is it that open right now?
Well, I think he's taking it a look like day to day, and when I say that, I mean like, all right, so is he ready to go anytime soon? Is he ready to go next week? Is he ready to go next month? And he's kind of looking at the whole thing. I think he's really smart in the process he's taking with the medical people, not just in our building, but outside of our building, some specialists. I don't think we've gotten to that point yet, though, Jeff. I mean, listen, everything's on the table. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you it's not, but I can't sit here and tell you we've even broached that yet.
How much time have you spent the last 48 hours now going with offense, defense? I mean, are you kind of overseeing that now and diving in on those game plan meetings?
Yeah. Listen, I think one of the things that's really important to me is how we go out there and play as a team, and we're not three separate units. We need cohesion, and I just want to. And listen, I'm not going to be sitting there and telling Clint what plays to run. I'm not going to be sitting there and telling Joe what defense to run. I'm not. But also, I think we want to play team football. I think that's one of the things I think I mentioned maybe the other day. I don't think we've played complementary football. We had good special teams games, and maybe the other two phases didn't play well. Or we had good offensive games and vice versa. We really haven't played complementary football since the Dallas game. That's just, and in this 7-game stretch, we've had peaks and valleys in all three phases. And so that's really my message, and just making sure we're all on the same page. Like, how do we want to play this game? We don't want to play it, the offense, you play it this way, and the defense, you play it this way, and special teams, you play it this way. We want to play it together as a team. And so one of my messages to the team today is this is how we will win the game against the Falcons, and this is how we could potentially lose the game, and let's everybody be on the same page with how we're going to attack this game as a team. And then we break it down to the individual phases.
And you mentioned the other day, you brought up Bill Parcells' name. How big of a mentor or influence was he on you in your career?
Well, listen, when the Giants won the Super Bowl in 1986, I was a 16-year-old kid that went to Bergen Catholic High School in New Jersey, and he was an idol. And then in 1990, when they won the Super Bowl again, I was a 20-year-old college kid playing college football, and that was my hometown team. And so I grew up in that, as a football guy and a young kid in an area where they were it. Bill Parcells was it. In the Lawrence Taylor, Phil Simms days and all that stuff. And so I grew up idolizing this man. And when I decided to get into coaching, to sit here and tell you that I was going to coach. He was going to hire me, personally hire me one day. And so that was a highlight of my career at that point in my life. And so I happened to be there for a couple of years with him in the building. And it was a little bit of a dream come true, quite frankly, for a guy that was a young guy growing up, idolizing someone, and then getting a chance to work for him, and him being a mentor, and then now staying in touch with him all these years. You know, I mentioned my connection with Sean Payton is directly related to Bill Parcells. My connection with the late Tony Sperano is a direct correlation to Bill Parcells. So there's kind of that tree, if you will. And so I'm probably, on the low-hanging fruit on the tree, but I'm on the tree somehow, some way. So he has been a mentor. He's been a guy that if I ever picked up the phone, gets right back, to me, he's just a great man. But
Did you try to talk to him at all after this? Or not?
I spoke to him the other day. I did. I spoke to him whatever day it was, Monday or my days are blending together. But I spoke to him since since I took over, and listen, he had some great advice, and again, it's fantastic to have a mentor like that, and a guy you could you could pick up the phone and have a conversation with.
I don't like romanticize it because it's obviously the situation is a difficult one, but you've coached a lot of NFL games. The last time you were a head coach, I think, was at Rhode Island, and it's like 6,000 people in the stadium or something, and now you're going to be...
Why, take a shot at Rhode Island?
No, literally. Go roadie or whatever.
Yeah, go roadie is right.
Yeah, and so, but do you reflect that all? The last time you were a head coach, going to be in the Superdome against an arch rival in the NFL. The last time it was against Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
For 6,000 people.
Absolutely. Come on, we didn't play Sacred Heart. Come on, give us a little bit. Give us a little bit of credit. Come on, Rhoda. Come on, go Rhodey is right. No, listen. I think it's twofold. One, I'm certainly glad I have head coaching experience. And I would say this: ever since I was at the Dolphins, I would say towards the end of the Tony Sperano era, into Joe Philbin, into Adam Gase, getting here with Sean, Dennis, all that. I've always been, that whole stretch, I've been in charge of the game management. I mean, there was a couple of years with Adam Gase in Miami where I had the challenge flag in my pocket. And I was able to be the challenge guy, the timeout guy. So I think that's important from an experience standpoint. As I mentioned the other day, I've special teams coaches, we deal with the whole entire team. So that part of it, and so, even these last 3 years with DA, I've been very much in tune with everything that's going on, timeouts, all that. So that's going to be the important part about it. I can't get lost in that. I got to make sure that, I'm doing the right things, making those decisions and all that. So I've been doing that already. At the same time, I need to lead the team, and I got to get a little bit more involved in the offense and defense. That's going to be the challenge for me. But I certainly have experience. Listen, I have a lot of respect. I don't care if you're a head coach in Pop Warner, high school, lower level college, Power 5, wherever you're a head coach, you still have to have the same mentality throughout the game. And so, yes, there's going to be a lot more fans, and we're playing our arch rival. And that certainly adds a little bit to it for sure. But at the same time, you're going to still manage the game the same way. So.
Regarding Olave, my coworker's doing a story just on how the NFL decides to eject people, because I think fans don't completely understand why a player would be ejected or not. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on Wood's hits on Olave, and if in the future, like those type of hits should result in ejection. Yeah,
you're trying to get me in trouble already, Catherine. So already trying to get me in trouble. I got to be honest with you. Sometimes I don't really understand it either. The ejection part of it, the fine part of it, and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna pass on my opinion there because I don't think it's going to go down a good road.
How often have you had
that was major self-control right there.
How often have you had the final say during the game on whether they want to fake or go for two and stuff like that?
I think those are two different animals. So running a fake, obviously, DA and or whoever head coach I worked for, if I knew that we had a possibility of doing that leading up to the game, hey, here's kind of the menu, here's kind of the down distances we're thinking about, here's kind of the look. And so, I wasn't just going to ever do that by myself and go rogue. The head coach was obviously involved in at least the decision, or going into the game, I knew that I had the green light, if you will. It's like stealing a base, right? Do I got the green light or do I not got the green light? And so going for two is more of a, this in-game decision where, and that's more how's the game playing out. There's a lot of new philosophies on going for two. I'm a little bit more, quite frankly, of the old school way. And so, the analytical way, it can be good and bad. It works. They both work both ways. I mean, right? If you get it, it's a good decision. If you don't, it's a bad decision. So, I mean, that's, and so, like I said, I think those are two different, but I've been very involved in those. So for example, when any offensive drive has taken place, since I've gotten here, back with Sean, the conversation was going on. Now, Sean was a play caller, and so, myself, Phil Galliano, the guys that run game management, we would say, hey, if we score here, we're going for 2. And then when we scored, we'd say, Sean, this is a 2, boom. All right, well, with the defensive coach, you're having that conversation while the offense is going down the field. Hey, this is a situation. So, we're talking about that the entire drive. This is a go for it situation if we get to 4th down. This is a field goal. This is a punt. So those conversations are happening on the headset. And the fact that I'm not going to be an offensive or defensive play caller, quite frankly, I think that's one of the advantages of doing that. You can kind of stay ahead of the game and talk through those game management decisions where a lot of times an offensive and defensive play callers, quite frankly, they make emotional decisions. There was a former head coach here. There was an offensive play caller. It was a little bit emotional at times.
I'm thinking about, do you anticipate needing the same halo around you that Sean Payton needed?
Well, I think after the first guy I yell at, I've never yelled at anybody on the sideline before, but no, I don't think so. I think we're gonna lean on the staff and the players and all that. Hopefully, I don't need that same one. So. I haven't talked to him since Monday. No, I obviously talked to him when we played and all that, but I haven't talked to him since. I'm guessing that we will talk here shortly. So, anyhow, appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
We'll be real quick.
We were told you were outside.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was outside the door. I was like, dang, Riz, golly. This man soaking it up? No, I'm just kidding.
29 minutes.
We did have a lot of questions.
I'm assuming you did. Yeah.
I mean, the way he communicates,
Yeah.
how helpful is that for a team? Because it just seems like the messaging is very clear and
Yeah.
when you talk, there's something behind it. Is that?
It is very clear. You know exactly where you stand with him. Every player on this team has a relationship with him. I would assume just the way he is with everybody, and he's him and I have always had a great relationship. Since I've been here, we've had some great times together. We've battled through some things and worked through some things together, and I've just enjoyed being around him. I enjoy learning from him, and he's a really smart coach, but he's very detailed. But everyone in our building knows exactly where they stand with him. And if you don't, you ask him, he'll tell you straight to your face.
Derek, how have you handled, I guess, since Monday,
Yeah.
being dismissed now, Riz, and how have you handled the whole situation?
I would hate to say that I have a lot of experience at that, but I do. I've been in a lot of those situations, and I mean, you hear the rumblings before I even came here, but I just love this city. I love this team, and I love DA, and we never thought they would get to that, but when it happens, DA sent us a text to the captains and was able to send them a message back, and he knows that, we're in in-season mode, and so there'll be a time where we could have a conversation and spend some time together. But he just wants us to win. That's all he wants for us, and that was his message. He loved us, and everyone to a man, all of us captains, we're like, man, we wish we could have won more for you. We wish we could have all been healthy, like at the right times, and all those kind of things. Like, sorry, it's sad, it sucks. But one thing in this business, and he knows this, like, it's not that we don't love him and we don't care. We just you have to move on to the next day because this business never stops.
Is it harder though, the way that this is the second time you and DA specifically have been through this situation? Was this time, does that make it?
This one was harder. The first time was like 3 games into my rookie year, and I was like, dang, this is the NFL. Like, goodness gracious. And so, well, at least that's been my experience. I've been in some tough situations, and at the end of the day, you just try and put your best foot forward and win football games. And for this time it was different because it's just years of knowing somebody, and then you want you want to come in and you want to help them out, and and we started fast, and I was like, all right, cool, and then we hit that lull, and then whatever happened, and then he gets fired, and it's like, dang, like, I almost felt like this time was quick too, but I understand how the NFL is. I understand how it works, and so it's a sad time because at the end of the day, we're all human. Like, he has a family, he has kids, and a wife, that we all have emotions and all these kind of things, and so we are human. But at the end of the day, he's a very blessed, he's a blessed man, and I know he's going to be just fine because he's a really good football coach.
How was practice today there? How was practice today? Tempo, move?
Extremely fast, upbeat, fast, nonstop moving. We were in and out, but I mean, I think that's the most plays we've run in a practice in my career, like in a long time. And so we got a lot of good reps. At different speeds, of course, but a lot of good reps, a lot of different looks, and hopefully that translates to you get more time on task on something, we get better at it. And so Lord knows we need to be better at what we're doing right now. So Riz laid out some of the things that I'll let him talk about some of the things that he thinks we need to do better, but he also gave us a plan, and we executed that plan today on how to continually get better at those things as a team.
How would you describe where sort of the mood or the mindset of the team is right now? I mean, obviously, getting kicked a little bit on Monday with Dennis, but how would you describe where you guys are right now?
Yeah, I would describe how we are right now is, our backs are against the wall, and literally, and it sucks. We put ourselves there, but what I saw today was a team, which I was really proud of how we practiced, because we came out and fought. We are trying our best. We're every day. I come in here early, and there's guys in here early. I stay late, and there's still like a whole bunch of guys in their meeting rooms and guys on the practice field afterward. And so there's a lot of guys trying to do the right thing, and for me today, like, the feeling was, no, we're gonna, whoever's next on the schedule, like, they got to be ready for a fight. We're not just gonna lay down and die. We're not just gonna lay down and let it happen. You got to fight back. And we are in a tough spot, but we got no one to blame but ourselves. And the DA caught the brunt of it because he was the head coach, but at the end of the day, everyone in our building had a hand in that. And so, we all felt it, but today was a good practice. Today was a good day, and that's the only option you have. You can either quit or just keep fighting no matter what, and I just think that we have just a locker room full of guys that are just going to keep fighting, no matter what happens.
Yeah, I know you said counting, but sorry, like, how many more reps is it? Like,
I wouldn't know. I'm sorry. It just felt like a lot more. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know the exact number.
Derek, you said,
Unfortunately, you've been through this a few times. I'm sure it's very common for others next to try to bring energy and change right away.
Yeah.
What has worked that lasts? Like, what's something from experience that can make a permanent difference?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I mentioned this to some of our players, on Monday. I was like, when you started hearing the rumblings that it might happen, I was like, we didn't know who it was going to be yet. And I said, well, whoever it is, whatever it was, whether it was good or bad, it doesn't matter. It just has to be different. When you come in the building on Wednesday, it has to feel different. There has to be a new energy, because you go however many in a row that it hasn't gone well. Something that Wednesday has to feel different. And this Wednesday felt different. And it, just in my experience, when it feels different, does it result in wins and all that kind of stuff right away? No, but it usually results in good results down the road, and our plan is to make the good results now, obviously, but whatever it is, the feeling of the building, the feeling, the energy, the schedule, whatever, you have to start doing stuff differently, and he said, look, we got to do something different, and we all have to buy into that, and we bought into it. And when that happens, just in my experience, that usually is a good thing. I've been around some times where someone has to step in or something, and it kind of just stays the same, and it's like, you kind of, with the older players, they're like, what are you offering me that some kind of hope that it can be different, results wise. So just in my experience, like, if you come in with something different and a plan that points to winning, that guys are used to seeing, like, in we've all had spurts where we've won in our career, and you look at it and you're like, that reminds me of that, you know, and that kind of gives you hope back about it.
What is not top secret information that you can share that is part of Darren Rizzi's plan for winning or approach to winning?
That's a good question. I wish he was in here so I could ask him what I could say.
What has stuck out as being, as looking and feeling different?
Well, definitely practice was different. You know, the time that we're out there, the intensity of what we're doing and how we're doing it, and there's no wasted minute of the day. You know, like, I mean, the schedule, you know, the rest he's allowing us to get, and his big thing, I think, is for us to feel fresh on Sundays. Just if I'm looking at it as a veteran player, how he's putting the schedule, the mental reps, you know, especially as you get later in the season, you know, his answer isn't just to continue. You know, because I've had coaches on both sides, and I've seen it work and not work on both ways. You know, there's some coaches that think, you know, if it's not working, well, we got to do more physically. And then his mindset is, we're going to still do the physical, but I need more mentally, because, you know, the discipline of the penalties, the discipline of the mental errors. You know, so far for us as a team, that could be better. And so for him, you know, us being a better mental, tough and mental aware football team, I think was definitely evident to me in what he's trying to produce in us.
A little bit about the activation period, excuse me, that he added. Can you tell us a little bit about what you feel in terms of the impact of adding that?
Yeah. So, everyone's different. You know, sometimes, you know, coaches have different schedules and different things, but his thing today was like, everyone is going to activate, and we're going to do it together. And it's not just the stretch period, but this is like an activation beforehand, because, you know, we know, I mean, it's no secret we've had a lot of crazy injuries, you know, this season. So he was like, I'm going to do my best to make sure that we're better at that. And that was his kind of stamp. And he did some other things that I don't know if he told you all, so I'm not going to say them. You know, for us to make sure that we are physically ready to hit practice running. And hopefully by doing that and the way he's doing the schedule and different things that we're so fresh on Sundays, that we feel great, you know, and hopefully that number, you know, stays down or goes down.
There's something nominal, like changing sides of the field in practice. You know, obviously, y'all are creatures of habit. Does that make it feel different, even if you're doing a lot of the same things? Does that change kind of your perception of how practice is?
Absolutely. You know, sometimes you can go through it, and you know, I always say to like young guys, don't let it feel like Groundhog Day. You know, you got to come out with a purpose all the time, because easily you can get into this, because it's such a long season and every Wednesday feels the same. I mean, I've had moments where I literally have deja vu. I'm like stepping on the same part of the grass at a Wednesday practice at that minute, at that, you know, like, and it can be that way, and you can't let it get that way, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, changing perspectives. And so, you know, with Riz today, he wanted to change perspectives in the meeting rooms. He's like, sit by a new teammate tomorrow, you know, like just change your perspective in the room, you know, just all that kind of stuff. And so he's doing all these kind of things, and us as players right now, we love it. And you know, it does feel different, and hopefully it just results to wins, because like we can feel good all we want, and like, you know, and all that kind of stuff, but you know, like our city needs a winner, and so hopefully that's what it produces.
Good time for
You
one
times
more.
that you heard rumblings before you signed here. Like, what did you mean by that? Do you mean like you felt like there was a lot of pressure on TA to win, or what?
Yeah, I wouldn't say like from the organization, like, you know,
Right.
just like the outside. Like when you're in that, like that's probably the only time like I was so open to what was being said about every team, because I was like trying to figure out everything, you know. And so like you hear those things like, you know, maybe they, you know, are they going to want a new coach and this and that, and you hear different things about a whole bunch of teams. And you know, like they reassured me like going into last season, like that was like we're not thinking that, you know. And you know, so it ended up he was there all year last year, and then going into this year, I wasn't really even thinking about that, especially with the way that we started. But yeah, I mean, I heard those things, but it was like, you know, I'm not really concerned about that. I just want to go, you know, I want to go play for this team with this group of guys, and that coach. So good, awesome. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Derek.
Yep.